We have about a 1 warning here, so if you need beverages or seats or all those things, or the background chatter, get ready. We'll be online here in literally 1 minute. Good to go. Hi, folks. We are officially started here, so I'd like to call the meeting to order and welcome everyone in attendance. The committee is under consideration the estimates of the Ministry of Infrastructure for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2025. I'd like to ask that we go around the table to have members introduce themselves, and if anyone is online, we'll flip to that. And if they aren't, then I get to delete about half of my script going forward, so that would be awesome too. My name is Shane Getz. I'm the MLA for Laxton and Parkland, better known as God's Country out in these parts. And we'll go around the table and introduce ourselves to the right.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Justin Wright. I'm the MLA for the charming constituency of Cypress Medicine Hat.
Scott Sear, MLA for Bonnyville Cold Lake.
Tanny Fort McMurray Wood Buffalo.
Ron Weeb, MLA, Grand Prairie Wapiti.
Jason Steffen, MLA Red Deer South.
Peter Guthrie, Infrastructure Minister. To my left is ADM Dale Beasley. To my right is Deputy Minister Mary Pearson and ADM Dale Fung.
Luann Metz, MLA for Calgary Varsity.
Good morning, Jasbir Diol, MLA Edmonton Meadows.
Perfect. And I don't see anyone online here today. Good, there goes half my script. I'd like to note the following substitutions. So Mr. Weeb is in for Ms. Dijon. We also have MLA Metz and Diol here today, substituting for. Oh, you're not subbing. This is good. We're just sitting in. This is perfect. Well, that makes it easy for me. Thank you very much. So a few housekeeping items that we have to read into the record. I apologize. They make me do it every single time. Even the guys always know the rules. Microphones, they're going to be ran by Hansard here. Obviously, everything is going to be live streamed and recorded and in Hansard as well. The members participating remotely, which we have none, which is great. Turn your cell phones off. Don't disrupt this meeting if you wouldn't mind. Put them to silent or anything else that's the least annoying. Speaking time and rotation limits. So honorable members, the main estimates for the Ministry Assembly shall be considered for 2 hours. Standing Order 59.01 sets the process of consideration of the main estimates for the Legislative Assembly Committee. Suborder 59.017 sets out the speaking rotation for this meeting. Speaking rotation chart is available for the committee members on the internal website. And hard copies have been placed in the positions where you're at to keep everyone online here as well in the room. For each segment of the meeting, blocks of speaking time will be combined only if both the minister and the member speaking agree. If debate is exhausted prior to 2 hours, the ministry estimates are deemed to be considered and the time allotted for the main estimates schedule, and the committee meeting will be adjourned. Should members have any questions regarding the speaking times in the rotation, please email or message the committee clerk about the process, or if you're in the room, wave your hand and my colleague to my left will definitely get his attention. Pages are available to deliver notes. Ministry officials presenting may, at the direction of the minister, address the committee. Ministerial officials seated in the gallery, if called upon, have access to the microphone in the gallery area and are asked to please introduce themselves. Pages are available to deliver notes or other materials between the gallery and the attendees at the table. Attendees in the gallery may not approach the table. Space permitting, opposition caucus staff may sit at the table to assist their members. However, members have priority to sit at the table at all times. Points of order will be dealt with as they arise. The individual speaking times will be paused. However, the block of the remaining 2-hour overall meeting will continue to run. Any written material provided in response to a question raised during the main estimate should be tabled by the minister in the assembly for the benefit of all members. Finally, the committee should have the opportunity to hear both questions and answers without interruption during the estimate debate. In other words, no heckling in here. Debate flows through the chair at all times, including instances when speaking time is shared between the members. And just a little rule of order, what makes it really easy for everybody, the guys that have been here before, we have this here document called the strategic plan. We have a fiscal plan for this year. We have the ministry business plans, and we have government estimates. It'll be awfully handy if you refer to these documents while you're speaking, keep it to the topics at hand. We have found that decorum not only is maintained, but it doesn't gobble up the shot clock with points of order. So please reference that for the folks that are along at home and for the benefit of the chair. The other thing too, if it does get a little spicy, I will draw your attention back here, and oftentimes it just works to go through the chair. I nod and I smile with the best of them. You'll find a very entertaining and engaged chair at this end. So with that, Minister, I'll turn it over to you. You have the first 10 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. Great little introduction there. Appreciate it. I'm pleased to present Alberta Infrastructure's estimates for the 24-25 fiscal year and our 24 to 27 business plan. With me at the table, Mary Pearson, Deputy Minister, Dale Beasley, Assistant Deputy Minister Properties, and Dale Fung, Assistant Deputy Minister of Finance. Also in the gallery are my Chief of Staff, Brian Rogers, and other fantastic members of our ministry team. I'd like to begin by touching on a few key accomplishments our ministry achieved in this past fiscal year. I'm pleased to note that we completed construction of several projects, including 13 schools across the province, like the Kate Andrews High School in Coaldale and the St. Anne Catholic School in Whitecourt, as well as 17 government facilities, including major maintenance and renewal projects, like the new Agri-Value Processing Business Incubator in Leduc, not to mention 5 health facilities, such as the Misericordia Hospital Emergency Department Modernization in Edmonton, which opened to patients last December. All combined, this work represents 35 projects with an investment of over $850 million. We've also made significant progress in the Red Deer Regional Hospital expansion, one of our biggest projects ever. Furthermore, we've recently closed the request for qualification stage on the ambulatory care building for Red Deer Regional. And this means that industry has submitted their qualifications to deliver this part of the project by P3, and we expect to invite 3 shortlisted teams to participate in the request for proposals. We have also just completed schematic designs for the new patient tower and anticipate opening the request for proposals on this segment in the spring using a construction management contract. I'm proud of the work our infrastructure team is doing to deliver these state-of-the-art facilities. The volume and quality of workmanship is remarkable and is a testament to the department staff, as well as our ministry and, of course, our industry partners. Infrastructure supports thousands of good-paying jobs and provides an economic boost to our communities. Throughout the province, infrastructure is responsible for delivering capital projects worth $5.7 billion, or almost 1/4 of the Alberta government's 2024 capital plan over the next 3 years. This is an increase of over $330 million, or 6% from our previous budget. The theme of Alberta's budget this year, a responsible plan for a growing province, is a key component of our infrastructure endeavors around capital investment. In fact, we feel having a responsible plan is so important that we have budgeted $135 million to be invested directly into project planning for schools, health facilities, and other structures. We know that diligent planning is critical to ensuring infrastructure is delivered on time and on budget. Taking the time up front for proper planning ensures projects are completed and ready for Albertans in a timely and cost-efficient manner. Now, you may have noticed that the Edmonton Hospital has been reprofiled in the 2024 capital plan. It has been moved to take a broader look at social infrastructure within the larger context of public needs in Alberta. By social infrastructure, we mean traditional health care, in addition to mental health and addictions, and seniors, community, and social supports. We will continue to build, maintaining our commitment to a solid foundation of stability and informed decision-making to improve the lives of Albertans. Our 2024 capital plan includes $88.3 million over 3 years for integrated health and social infrastructure planning. This work will position us to take a coordinated approach to planning social infrastructure. As we know, building a hospital like the Edmonton facility is a long and expensive process. Functional planning revealed an extensive scope, pushing the limits of our fiscal capacity. So we're looking at options around a hospital that include purpose-built facilities, like the new Stollery Children's Hospital, which will free up beds across 11 different Edmonton and area health units, as well as smaller focus locations such as surgical centers, continuing care facilities, and family care centers that are less complex and will deliver services to Albertans sooner. Additionally, we continue investing in relationships with our ministry partners to find opportunities that can accelerate construction timelines and ensure maximum value for every taxpayer dollar. I'd like to pivot slightly to infrastructure's estimates for 24-25, where we have almost $2.4 billion being allocated for spending in this upcoming year. Of this total, the majority, over $1.8 billion, is in the capital investment vote. This is an increase of $488 million, or 35%, from the 23-24 forecast. The increase is mainly the result of additional funding received to deliver approved school and health capital projects. Cash flows are also fine-tuned as progress is made from planning to construction, which can affect the timing of expenditures. Funds in the capital investment vote align with the desired outcome 1 of Alberta's infrastructure business plan, which is innovate, adaptive, and responsible infrastructure solutions that meet current and future provincial needs. This outcome reflects infrastructure's role in the timely, cost-effective planning, design, and construction of public facilities that are necessary to support the delivery of government programs and services. The majority of our capital investment is split between health and school infrastructure. Our health budget at $2.2 billion includes $20 million in additional funding for 2 recovery communities planned for Grand Prairie and Edmonton, and nearly $87 million in new funding for 3 health projects, including planning for a new renal dialysis unit at Richmond Road Diagnostics Centre to replace an existing facility in Calgary, planning for a new Stollery Children's Hospital in Edmonton, and delivering Phase 2 of renovations for medical device reprocessing departments across the province. It also covers 54 major health projects already underway in planning, design, or construction, such as the Lacrete Maternity and Community Health Centre and Alberta's Surgical Initiative. Our capital targets for school infrastructure are budgeted at $2.1 billion over 3 years. This is almost $450 million more than what was committed previously. Overall, Budget 24 provides new funding for 43 schools, specifically full construction funding for 12 school projects that had received planning or design funding in Budget 23, and full funding for 7 new schools and planning or design money for 24 additional school projects. Furthermore, the modular classroom program is being expanded by $25 million, bringing the total budget to $50 million, ready to help meet enrollment needs. The total funding also covers 55 projects that were already underway as of December 2023 in varying stages of design and construction. Infrastructure's capital budget also includes $590 million over 3 years for government facilities and accommodation, such as the Red Deer Justice Center, correctional facilities planning, and the Yellowhead Youth Center in Edmonton. Finally, infrastructure's capital plan has $878 million for capital maintenance and renewal to keep our existing government-owned health and school facilities in good working condition. Over $500 million of this amount will be used to cover the costs of repairs, upgrades, maintenance, and replacement of building systems and service equipment for various health facilities. Now, looking at infrastructure's 24-25 expense vote of $495 million, we see an increase of almost $18 million, or 3.7% from 23-24. This difference is mainly due to additional funding for increasing facility operational costs to manage government structures. About 90% of all operating expense is devoted to management of government space, the most significant components being leases and property management, noting that much of this budget is contractually committed. The expense vote primarily supports desired outcome 2 of infrastructure's business plan, which states Alberta's public infrastructure is effectively and responsibly managed and sustainable. This desired outcome reflects our ministry's efforts to effectively manage government-owned and operated facilities with a focus on sound financial stewardship, a commitment to quality, and efficient use of government assets. Overall, the expense budget covers funding for day-to-day operations of more than 1,500 infrastructure-owned or leased buildings, as well as operation of the Swan Hills Treatment Center, management of leased space to meet government program needs, and staffing to support these activities. My ministry remains committed to providing value for Albertans. We will continue to follow through on our business plan outcomes, and we will work with our government and industry partners to ensure sound delivery and care of priority infrastructure that in turn helps us support Alberta's responsible plan for a growing province. So if I have any time left, actually I have 5 seconds. So I won't continue anymore. Thank you for that.
That was perfect time management, Minister, so well done. We also had another member join us, if you just want to introduce yourself and for the record as well.
Good morning, everyone. Christina Gray, MLA for Edmonton Millwoods.
And feel free to brag up your constituency. We did the usual things at the start as well. So we will turn it over to the official opposition now. You have a 50-minute block. Your choice, of course, with the minister, if you agree, whether it's block time or back and forth.
Minister, would you like to?
I'll go block.
You block, okay. So I have 15 minutes then?
No, the way it works here is 10 minutes, I believe, is how it works.
10 minutes back and forth?
No more than 10?
10, 5,
You get 10 and then I'll have 10 to respond.
okay. Thank you, Minister. Thank you, Mr. Chair, thank you, Minister, and thank you, Deputy Minister, and both the ADMs. Really appreciate it, you being here and preparing all the work on behalf of Albertans. And I just wanted to say once again, all the questions I have in my mind are on the plan, nothing personal. They're all on behalf of Albertans and including my constituents, that they can have information and clear knowledge. So what is in the plan, what is in the budget, relative to, according to, their needs in the community and what they, thoughts in their minds. Thank you. So I'll begin asking questions around the capital planning. What I see on page 5 of 2024-27 capital plan, detailed by the ministries, the planning budget for Edmonton courts. What I see now, it looked to be drawn into 2 years instead of 1. So this seems that the planning has been delayed to 2 years now. So my question will be around if the minister could confirm if the planning to Edmonton courts have been delayed. And on the same page, I see that the Calgary Correctional Center CCDV upgrades are looking either they are delayed or extended. Last year's capital plan had only 1 year of funding. That was about 5.5 million for the 2023-2024 budget on the last year's capital plan. Now it's on the books. When you see it, it's 1.5 million for 2024 and 2025. This is a huge gap of the funding. So I would really appreciate if the minister can explain about that. And Kananaskis Emergency Services Center. So seems like that's also delayed to this year. And the cost has seems like increased. It was budgeted for 0.7 million for the last capital plan, but it's 0.8 for this year's 2024-27 capital plan. And if Minister can explain like why it was not spent or completed the project in the last capital plan and why it has been extended or delayed, or if the cost has increased due to the delaying of this plan. So the most of the questions are on page 5 of the 2024-27 capital plan. So another line item, it shows the land purchases. Land purchases totaling to 30.2 million over 3 years plan. So explanation on this will be very helpful if the minister can tell me what lands government is looking to purchase. So it just says land purchases, there's no detail. And a lot of questions on Red Deer Regional Hospital Center. First of all, thank you for, announcing the expansion to that regional hospital that is much needed and people have been waiting for many years. And my question around this is like the government has decided to go over, through P3 model. In 2014, we had information, the Ontario Auditor General found that the private-public partnership, or P3s, as I mentioned before, cost the province $8 billion more over the previous 9 years by handing the responsibility over to the private sector. The report found that the main driver of the cost was private sector pays more financing than the public sector, about 14 times as much. So is the minister aware of the higher cost for P3s, with the main driver being financing cost? Alberta's conservatives have terrible track records. They did build a lot of P3s projects, record of using P3s, schools as an example. So basically everything was driven by ideology, that they have tried to use P3 for schools in few times now, and they have all failed as models. A lot of information available. In 2019, former Infrastructure Minister Prasad Panda announced that UCP would build 24 school projects through the P3 method. In 2021, the UCP government issues a press release lauding the benefits.
So I know you're on a roll, and I know you're gonna try to bring it back, but let's keep it within the calendar year. And let's make sure that it's on topic, so we don't wanna inflame anything here. Okay, bring her on back, and we'll give you some more rope.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you.
So I'm coming back to the budget. You had 800 million, and then when you go on the website of Alberta Health Center, Alberta Health Services, then you see a difference of gaps. So that's where I'm coming to, right? So coming back to 2021, the UCP government issues a press release lauding the benefits of P3 models for schools. 5 new high schools were announced as using the P3 methods, but with the total student capacity of about 7,000. This bundle of P3 schools cost Alberta 300 million, according to the Canadian Council for Public-Private Partnership. But a year later, in 2022, the infrastructure minister, Neudorf, cancelled the next bundle of P3 schools, saying money, and though very important, is not the only consideration. There are other considerations that we want to adopt in this process and give a value to source. And my question around this, what are those other considerations Neudorf was talking about? I would wonder if the minister had a time to go over those concerns. And if the minister had, then what were those, if you can explain? So how did it impact your decision-making going through P3 models? When you see, like, you have $800 million for that Red Deer project, and the website says, moving on to that project, it is 1.8 billion Red Deer Regional Hospital Center redevelopment source. So can you explain, like, because the JUCP has abandoned, after 2022 announcement of then infrastructure minister, they abandoned the plan of Calgary Deerfoot Trail. They abandoned number of other P3 models they were going through. They canceled it. So there's $800 million to $1.8 billion cost difference showing in two websites. And I would really appreciate if Minister can provide the information. So what was the then minister's consideration, and if you have consulted him, if anything was on the record, and you have gone through it, and what we have learned, and why those other P3 models under the previous ministry was canceled, and now we're going back to the same model that was deemed that cost the public sector more, and then we gain much less going through this model. And I'll go over. We have also, it costed maybe, if that is the cost, that is costing us the Edmonton South Hospital. Because now what we have seen since the government is investing into the Red Deer Regional Hospital Center, we have lost the project that was going forward in Edmonton South. So it is giving the impression that then that was only focused for the then MLA and the former minister's portfolio to win his seat. Since he's not on the table anymore, that project is gone. Thank you, Mr.
So that ends your time for now. It'll come back to you. The minister has 10 minutes, and since I gave the member lots of latitude to refer to those other items to get his point, Minister, I'll afford you the same latitude if you so need it.
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to need a little bit of back and forth because I need to get some clarity just on your initial cash flow questions. There was the Edmonton courts. Is that what it was?
Point, Minister, you can't have the back and forth. No,
Okay.
onesies, twosies, you already chose, so you will
right,
have
well-
to save that for the next block.
Okay, all right.
Change your mind when it's the member's
I'll
next
just-
10-minute block.
I'll just make the comment then
Okay.
that perhaps if I could just get the page number and just get clarity on, it was Edmonton courts. I missed the second one, and then unfortunately, and then
27 capital plan, page number 5.
and then.
Very
I know, I'm
bendy,
just
and the
leaving
clerk
it
is,
so
yeah,
that for the next
the
block.
clerk is gonna kick me out of the table, you're next, boys.
Yeah,
so-
I was
okay.
speaking through the chair, and then Kananaskis, I think it was emergency center, but I just want to get clarity on that, so I just put that out there. I think the biggest element there was the P3 discussion, so I think what I'll do is start chatting a little bit about the ambulatory care at Red Deer Hospital. So the Red Deer Hospital ambulatory building is, part of the wider Red Deer Regional Hospital redevelopment project and is being delivered through P3, but not the entire project being done through P3. In the 24 capital plan, this project is funded through the main Red Deer Regional Hospital overall project budget of $1.8 billion. And as part of the wider development, the ambulatory building is standalone multi-story facility of approximately 19,500 square meters with over 200 parking stalls below ground. It'll provide medical and clinical support services, including addiction, mental health, and ambulatory procedures, and diagnostic imaging for the Red Deer community. And as part of the Red Deer ambulatory site establishment, final approvals have been received for obtaining the parcel of land previously owned by Red Deer, City of Red Deer, and the ambulatory building is expected to be complete in 2029. The setting of technical requirements with AHS began in June of 2023 and is being finalized for inclusion in the upcoming request for proposals. In November of 2023, this project was approved for P3 using a design, build, finance, maintain, delivery model. And on January 16th, 2024, infrastructure posted a request for qualifications to build the ambulatory building using this approach. That RFQ closed February 29th, and 3 submissions were received, and evaluations are currently underway. Once the evaluation is completed, a request for proposal is planned to be issued for May of 2024. Notification of this, the preferred bidder is targeted for March of 2025, with financial close in May of 2025. It takes a long time to work through the material. But once the award is finalized and a design, build, finance, maintain agreement is fully executed, a firm construction schedule will be put forward. Now, throughout this project, infrastructure will continue to explore options to expedite and the procurement and try to accelerate timelines. Infrastructure is currently working to standardize some of the elements of construction and do some streamlining. But as we had discussed, we've had this discussion a couple of times in QP on P3s, but it's probably important that we continue that discussion. And you know, P3s are a proven commodity. They're used all around the world to deliver projects, and it's used across Canada. It's used across the U.S., Europe. This is a very common delivery method, and it's one that it doesn't matter if you are where you are on the spectrum as far as a government. If you have any kind of fiscal responsibility, this is a method that you don't want to eliminate from your from your holster of things that you can use and deliver on. And Alberta taxpayers, they deserve to get the best value for their buck and for their investment dollars, and ignoring this tool would simply just be an error. P3s help us to make the best use of limited taxpayer dollars, and since 2004, Alberta's government has successfully used the model to invest over $8 billion across the province on 11 major capital projects, including schools, highways, a wastewater treatment facility. On a net present value basis, the value for money for these projects has saved $3.4 billion for government when compared to more traditional methods. So, you know, I feel anyway that we have an obligation, to look for the best value for our investment. And, I'm an engineer, so I'm always looking for data. I'm looking for numbers when I'm making my decisions, and try to stay agnostic towards the type of delivery model, just whatever is going to provide us the best value and get us there as quickly as we possibly can, while maintaining quality, because we're not willing to sacrifice there. In the last 15 years, we've delivered or are in the process of delivering 45 schools in this fashion. And currently we have an award-winning P3 that's currently underway for 5 high schools. And all of these schools are going to be coming in on budget and on time. All of them will be finishing later this spring, which I think is fantastic. But that little package there alone, that's going to save taxpayers over $100 million. So, and from an award-winning perspective, I think it's worth noting that, in October of 2022, this bundle, it had got the Best Education and Higher Education Project P3 Award out of New York. that's, that's us here in Alberta. And then in November of the same year, there was a gold award for project development from the Canadian Council for public-private partnerships. So, we expect the construction of this bundle to be, as I mentioned, completed later this spring. But this is going to include, and they're all high schools. So these are some of our more complex schools. But this includes schools in Black Falls, in Edmonton, of all places, Heritage Valley in Edmonton, in Langdon, down in Rocky View School Divisions, and in Leduc, south of Edmonton. And along the way, one of the things that we wanted to do was create jobs. We went through this pandemic, and we were really wanting to get people to work, and this is one way that we did it. There's 1,700 construction jobs and over 6,000 student spaces that were fulfilled here. So there are 7 more schools actually that we are going to be procuring by this method later this year, and improvements have been made around speed and effectiveness in maintenance of P3s. But maybe what I'll do is save some of that because I have a feeling, I don't know, it might come up again in a subsequent block. Dale, if I could pass it over to you, maybe here, we only have 30 seconds left, but to talk a little bit to those cash flows.
Thank you, Minister. So the question was regarding to the Edmonton Law Court, where on page 116 of the fiscal plan, it showed $1 million in 2024-25, $2 million in 25-26, for a total of $3 million. So the business case was completed in 2009 to address capacity issues in the building. In budget 2022, provided funding for project planning, and in the fall of 2022, infrastructure awarded the contract to Stantec to provide a new planning study and business case to address the current and future needs of the Edmonton Law Court.
That 10 minutes goes fast. Back to the loyal opposition, and I would throw it back to the member if you wish to ask for combined time. I'm sure the minister has another ear there that might be able to whisper into.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Minister, would you like to go share time, or it's your option?
Well, let's keep it blocked, I guess.
Okay. So, thank you. Thank you for your answer. Some of the information, in your answer, I would really appreciate more clarity on this. As per the capital plan, that it is viewed that government is intent to build or expand the Red Deer Regional Hospital Center in next 3 years. So, listening to the answer, I hope I have heard very correctly that the minister says the beds from the P3 proponents will start coming in by March 5, 2025, March 2025, something like that. So, my question to the minister, according to the plan and your answer, so I just wanted to ensure what is your timeline of completing of the completion of that project. So you think that will still be completed within the next 3 years? Or the P3 model, as it's viewed, as you said, the beds will start coming in 2025, will also impact, as generally happen, of delaying the project. Nevertheless, if the minister can inform that, about advertence of this project, about the Red Deer Regional Hospital. So use the P3 method. So would it be like entire $1.8 billion that will go through the P3 model, or this is a portion of it, this is a part of it? So if minister can explain, the P3 the whole budget of $1.8 billion is going to go through the P3 model, or the part of that project is only going through P3 model. So hospitals are, complicated infrastructures, and the P3s have a lot of questions. I have mentioned already in the past that costed taxpayers much more than using traditional procurement methods. And I have a lot of sources to back up that argument. And the government's own minister of then actually admitted that and recognized that. So one of the questions I have around generally the B3 models, most of the B3 models have concern like who's going to own what. So many of the P3 models in the past ended up investing public money but not owned by the public sector. So in this case, if the minister can confirm or explain if this project will be owned by the public sector, we're going to go ahead. And the other thing the minister can do, very nice service to Albertans, if you can commit to releasing the value for money report by end of the project, that would be very helpful because it will address a lot of questions and concerns I'm raising and the people are raising around it, and the government's understanding, like if they're still, determined to pursue this, as according to my knowledge, there are a lot of concerns. The previous government has canceled their idea of going with P3 models for schools, but hospital projects are much more critical in need. Like when you look at that, if the government has chose to go back to P3 model on this critical infrastructure of hospital expansion, that'd be helpful if minister would commit to releasing the value for money report end of the project. It may surprise the other thing, or many Albertans, that unsuccessful proponents are awarded an honorarium for bidding on P3 projects. So the Red Deer Hospital project, for example, I'm just saying, setting an example, if somebody is paid unsuccessful proponent, 1.5 million each. So that is the information. I have looked through the public-private partnership framework and guidelines of Alberta. On page 52, line item 6.8, it says honoraria, and that explains the service delivery ministry may pay an honorarium to the unsuccessful proponents who submit a compliant final submission to partially offset their pursuit costs. So if the minister can tell Albertans how much was paid to unsuccessful proponents for Red Deer Hospital, and can the minister provide us with a total amount paid to all P3 projects since 2019? Here's the information. If you cannot right now, that is fine. You can send me the information also in writing. And including all P3 school projects. The failed Deerfoot P3 projects that was withdrawn, that was initiated through P3, but then withdrawn. The Southwest Calgary Ring Road and so on, and that was another project, that was initiated through P3, but then withdrawn. So that project and how much is expected to be paid this year, and where is that accounted for in the budgeted line item? So that'd be helpful. And the next question I have, that's coming from page 135 of estimates for infrastructure. That shows the total capital investment for last year, 2023, 2024, to be 1.69, just close to $7 billion. Yet the forecast on the same page showing the spending was only 1.3 $1.36 billion. That is a huge difference big difference of $330 million not being spent but budgeted. So my question to the minister is, why did government announce capital spending, then only to cut it or not being spent? And where this gone, like which project was cut or taken back, or what was the reason the government did not spend that money? And which projects, like, you can list if that'd be helpful, if you have information about the projects, they were delayed or they were shelved or they are on the agenda on the future budget. So that'd be real helpful, because $330 million out of the last year budgets was not spent. And also on the estimates, page number 138, is cutting like 1.56 million from health facility infrastructures and operating expenses. This is line item 2.2, page 134 of government estimates. So that is a sizable cut, amount to just over 33%. This funding for the planning, design, and delivery of health capital projects in partnership with Alberta Health Services and the Department of Health. So that's quite a bit cut to the funding. So can the minister explain, is this due to the wrong decision-making by the UCP breaking their promise to build the hospital in South Edmonton, and how much is budgeted for this year to reclaim the site where the Edmonton Hospital was supposed to be built? So, and the operating expense for line item 3.1, property management, bent over budgeted last year. There was like 203 million budgeted, but spending is, the forecast spending is like 10 million more than that.
Time is up, 10 minutes goes really quick. Minister, back to you.
Isn't it? Okay, so I'll try to hit on a few of these points. So the ambulatory care completion is going to be in 2029, and the honoraria that you're talking about, that is built into the budget, and it is part of the process. We bring in the proponents early on, and we work together to develop the project along. And it, as you know, as I was saying there, May of 2025 is when it'll be awarded. So we're working together for, the better part of a year. And it makes the project better by having all of that early collaboration. But whoever we're working with, whoever that proponent is, they do need to get paid for their time. But we have cost savings along the way because of that working as a consortium. So as far as disclosing that information, we don't have a contract yet. So I can't tell you what that honoraria is going to look like, but I can tell you that after the project is awarded, all that information will be released at that time. So it will be, of course, it has to be disclosed, but just don't have the information for you now. The Kananaskis Emergency Center that you had mentioned on the last go-around, there was some minor repair work that was remaining, just due to seasonality, around $1 million for some deficiencies. I think there was a little bit in siding, but it's a completed project. So that should alleviate your concerns there. You had also, well, you had mentioned the Ring Road. That is in the purview of transportation and in tech. I do have a little bit of cost-benefit information here that I'll let you know about a bit later. But as far as details around those projects, I don't have that, but I can give you a little bit of info on it. From the previous block, you were asking about land sales, and I got a little bit of information here. Client department acquisitions for arts, culture, and status of women and forestry and parks include Lewis Hole, Balzac, archaeological site, Boss Lake campsite, Hardesty Bison Pound, Grassy Lakes and Stammers Medicine Wheel. There's Red Deer River Valley, some stuff, Red Deer River Valley piece. And yeah, total projects estimated to be at about 11.4 million. So that's what's coming. Now, as far as the aspect around our policy on sales, I'm going to turn that over to ADM Dale Beasley for some follow-up.
Good morning. So when we're looking for a site to acquire for land, what we would do is we would engage with stakeholders who could include municipalities, GOA departments, to identify any regional geographical needs for what's required. This can include the acquisition of a property for a school, hospital, courthouse, as some large examples, but there are also small examples like acquiring a small portion of land to expand a road, working with Alberta Transportation and Economic Corridors. Specifically, when we look to acquire a chunk of land, we try to balance the needs of the program and achieve the stewardship of public funds. For example, is the area serviced, or is there tie-in lines up to the servicing line? At times, we can get creative and exchange lands and do land swaps with municipalities, which in effect is like trading land that are deemed surplus by the GOA. And just for context, in terms of surplus sales, we did $49 million in surplus sales last year.
Okay, thank you. On the property operations question, on the $10 million increase from 23-24 budget to forecast, it's due primarily to higher cost day-to-day management of government facilities as a result of inflation on total property management contracts. Now, from the P3 perspective, we were talking or referenced, and you had asked about dollar savings. I think you had flipped it that we weren't saving any money, but you know, I can say that actually very few of our projects do go through to P3. We evaluate all that are 100 million or over, and where schools are concerned, sometimes we have to bundle to get to that level. But at that 100 million and up, we evaluate all projects and look for what would be the best financial tools to be able to deliver that, and the best methodology to use the delivery method. So it's not random. We go through a financial process of balancing and figure out what is the best method. And when we get that, we're comparing to those other delivery methods. So that's what I'm about to read to you, some of that information and our savings. The Anthony Henday, you asked about some of the transportation projects. That one was a P3. The bid $493 million, and the savings value for money on that one was $4 million. Now the Stony Trail, that one, the bid was $650 million, and the savings was $350 million. So it makes it awfully difficult when you're looking at another delivery method to leave $350 million on the table. Another one here with Anthony Henday, this is the northwest segment, 1.4 billion was the bid, and a $200 million savings, 12.5%. Back to Stony Trail, the southeast portion, that was done by P3. The bid came in at $769 million, which was an astounding $1 billion in savings. Northeast, Anthony Henday came in at 1.8 billion. It was a $400 million savings, or 18%. We did 18 schools, total value $634 million, and that had a savings of $97 million. There was another 10 school package, $253 million bid, $105 million savings. There was another package of 12, $289 million by bid, and $43 million in savings, 13%. The Kananaskis Water Treatment was Treatment Center in Kananaskis. That one was a $60 million bid, $2 million in savings. And then Southwest Stony Trail, $1.4 billion project that had $1 billion in savings, 1.06 billion in savings by going through a P3. In 2021, the 5-school high school package, as we discussed earlier, $300 million bid, saving $114.5 million, 27.5%. So you can see that, okay, there's a couple of them that were fairly narrow, but many of these are in the 15% plus to 30% plus savings. So leaving that kind of money on the table, I think is just not good use of taxpayer funds. And I mean, it's obviously something that's in our policy and is going to remain in our policy. You had asked about health facility infrastructure and the $1.6 million decrease from the 23-24 budget. And this is primarily due to project scheduling and cash flow requirements for healthcare facility planning. It also partially reflects a wind down of planning funds that are general in nature, as planning funds attributed to specific health facilities are now budgeted and reported under the capital investment vote. It's very, very common in infrastructure to be moving cash flows. This happens, you set out with a game plan early on as to when you're going to distribute the funds and where you will be in the schedule. Sometimes you have to get into the project or up to the project, go through that planning stage to be really able to.
And then 10 minutes is up. We have 8 minutes and 57 seconds remaining in the block. Back to the opposition. And just be cognizant, if you use that full time, then the minister won't have a chance to reply to you in this. Not to coach you, but it's up to you.
Sure. So 4-minute question?
No, you're good for the remaining. Yep. It's just up to you how you want to manage your time.
Sure, thank you, Minister, once again for your answers. So, some information from your answers, I was trying to catch up and take a note on those. The timeline of Red Deer Regional Hospital completion, project completion is like 2029, like 5 more years to go. The other thing I just asked, like, I don't know, the minister, I think, have a clarity at this stage, and that is like about the ownership, the question I have, like, how would the ownership be? Is this private company owns the facility after completing it, like the control of operations, as in the past we have seen that in P3 schools, so where in the P3 model, the staff was not able to take a control or charge of operating the facilities. In many cases, like they wanted to use heat or AC or something else, like they were not allowed. Like, so who's going to control it? Like, who's going to own it? Who's going to control it? I would really appreciate that information, because We have seen through the evidence, the private deliveries do have impacts on that, like the minister I know understand very different way. And I can agree to disagree on a lot of information that came in this way. A handful of information says that the projects being through P3 ended up being very, very costly. And the ownership is also another trouble on this. And the value for money report, right? Money value report, if, I know this is not something you will have it right now, but if you can commit to it, that'd be very helpful for the confidence of the people who are, really concerned about this project. So if we have that, then that is due, basically. And I have some more questions from your answer. Let me see if I do. Okay, I'll go back to so line item 3.4, accommodation projects and budget. That was budgeted at 5 million for the last fiscal year, but spending was only at 1.5 million. And while the next fiscal year spending will be 9 million according to the budget, right? So can the minister explain this wild fluctuation in this budgeting and spending on this operating expense? Like, it's a huge difference that was not even spent, like 40% of the budget, not even 30% of the budget of last year, and that was also very low. And now the budgeting like double the amount, or maybe 7-8 times the forecast of last year. So what is this fluctuating around that line item? And the department capital acquisition, I have a question around that. That is on page 139 of the estimates and line item 2.1. Government-owned infrastructure was budgeted at $167.7 million in 2023-2024 budget. But forecast spending coming like much lower, like it was not spent. It was spent only $96 million out of $167.7 million budgeted for it. So why like this is such a big discrepancy, and where the discrepancy is, if the minister can explain it, that'd be really helpful. And there was unbudgeted increase about 2 million in line item 3.2 on the same page. That is related to Swan Health Treatment Center. So,
Do we give time to the minister to answer?
oh sure, yeah, I just completely blank. Minister, I will cede my time to you. You can answer these questions. Sorry about that, I took more time than.
No problem. Minister, the member ceded the remaining block time to yourself for any responses. Sounds good.
All right, there's quite a bit in there again on P3s, and so I want to maybe just discuss here a little bit about what's going on as far as how we've worked with the school systems, as well as the CMR element that you brought up. So over 99% of the time, Alberta P3 schools complete maintenance on time. And when they don't, of course, there's financial penalties for that. I can tell you that in 2020, there was a comprehensive lessons learned exercise with school jurisdictions related to the Alberta Schools Alternative Procurement P3 program, and changes were made in response to feedback. And so, because, you know, we're listening, if there was some dissatisfaction, we wanted to be able to get together, to be able to have a discussion that, one, there's some misconceptions that are out there, but then two, we want to be able to hear those concerns and react to them and work in a collaborative way. And so that's what we did early on here. But the response and feedback that we got included technical design requirements created with school jurisdictions being included throughout the process, including design reviews, site visits, and construction management meetings. Changes were made to key contract documents to allow minor modifications, decorating, and timelines for infrastructure response. And operational improvements were made through contract management during the maintenance and renewal period. So we're listening. We continue to include school jurisdictions in the overall project development and are working diligently to ensure partnerships happen and that they're feasible, and including upcoming school projects that we have in Okotoks and Glenridding. So also in late 2022, we took it a little bit further. Infrastructure initiated an independent review to assess the historical performance of P3s and further refine the P3 process. I mean, that's part of what any good organization does. You're always looking to improve.
And with that, it concludes the first block. We're now over to the government MLA caucus block time. Is there any member wishing to speak? Hi there. MLA Weeb.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
For block time or shared time?
Yes, I'd like to get shared time if that works for you, Minister. Sure. All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to thank the Minister for being here today and answer some questions regarding infrastructure projects with school facilities and the capital projects that are coming up. As we all know, Alberta has a booming economy. Alberta is the best place to live, work, invest, and raise a family. Because of this, Alberta has seen significant growth, and with that has come an increased need for new and modernized schools. In Budget 2024, on page 5, the capital plan, Alberta's government is investing $2 billion over 3 years in school facilities. Can the minister explain how many school projects are underway in the province right now?
Yeah, thanks, Ron, or MLA Weeb. The $2.1 billion over 3 years in the 2024 capital budget represents an increase of $46 million, or 28%, compared to the previous capital plan, which was also an aggressive plan. Overall, funding provided for schools will support the planning, design, and construction of 98 new schools and modernizations across the province. And of these, 67 school projects are active and in the following stages. We have 4 in planning, 31 in design, 28 in construction, and 4 projects are in post-construction. And of the active projects, infrastructure is delivering 63, and the remaining 4 are delivered by the school jurisdiction. So naturally, those others, the differential there, they'll come into the fold now that we've had them announced.
Do you know how many these will be of these projects will be completed by the end of this calendar year?
Yeah, so there are 5 projects that are currently under construction that will be completed by the end of the spring, plus an additional 3 projects where new schools will be completed and moved to post-construction status while some demolition occurs on the old school for a total of 8. The 5 projects that are going to be completed, the secondary school that's in Blackfalds, Whiskey Jazz School in Edmonton, McCaffrey Catholic High School in Edmonton, a 7 to 12 school in Langdon, and a secondary school in Leduc. And then we have those additional 3 projects, one of which is in Fort Vermilion, Harry Belfour in Grand Prairie, which actually my wife taught at her very first job out of university. We were living up in Grand Prairie for a couple of years. Really enjoyed that time, by the way, in that neck of the woods. Got a lot of snow up there. And then Manning Aurora Composite High School in the Peace River School Division. So, over the last 4 years, infrastructure has completed over 70 new or modernized schools across the province, and we're looking forward to building more.
Well, appreciate that answer. My next question has to do with the status of current bundle of schools that's being delivered using the P3 model. And the P3 model, we've heard a lot about today already. I just want to remind us of the Grand Prairie Hospital that was not built via the P3 model. I had hair when that project began, and it was incredibly painful to drive by that hospital for years and years, with the major contractor being fired and getting a new contractor in place. So things don't always go well either when it's not a P3. So just for the record. So the question is, how many schools are being delivered via the P3 model?
No, I'm not, I know the same as you on that hospital. I don't have, a lot of in-depth knowledge on it. What I do know is when you, and this I think relates, when you don't plan, when you try to simultaneously plan and design and build, when you try to do all of those things at the same time, that is the result. So taking that time up front, I know a lot of people, they don't see the activity on a site. They don't see that shovel in the ground. They don't see that backhoe going out there, and so then they're uptight. There's nothing happening with the project. There is lots happening with those projects behind the scenes. There's our chair here worked in the construction industry, and he knows how much time and effort goes in up front before you start any construction project. And if you don't have that, if you come out of the gate disorganized, you're going to have cost overage, you're going to have schedule issues, and that's sort of the poster child, I think, for that. But to your question, in May of 2024, we'll be completing the latest bundle of 5 schools, and this project is on time and is saving taxpayers $114 million, as I brought up a couple of times previously, compared to that through traditional methods. And it's worth noting that this bundle had won awards, and we gotta be proud of that, be proud of our record. And with Alberta's population growing, there's even greater need to deliver schools with a focus to deliver multiple schools at once. Those 5 are going to be coming in, probably within a matter of weeks of each other. And over the last 15 years, we've successfully delivered 45 schools using P3 method, including those 5. And this approach has saved Albertans nearly $360 million to date. And I'd like to point out too, in the 2023, from the 2,525 maintenance events, 96 or 99.6% of them were completed in the scheduled time frame that's lined out in the contracts. So very high success rate there.
I also see that Alberta Infrastructure is allocating almost 656 million in 2024-25 for the building of modernizing schools and investing in modular school program and supporting the expansion of specialized programs such as collegiate and public charter schools. What role, if any, does infrastructure play in prioritizing and planning the order of these projects?
Yeah, so Treasury Board and Finance, they lead that capital process. Education remains responsible for working with the communities to identify school priorities and for obtaining approval for all capital funding. And every year, education, they kind of receive and prioritize school jurisdictions and their three-year capital submissions. And they make their determination from that information as to, you know, what to move forward with. And that's where we come in. Infrastructure's role in the process is to support program ministries in the development of business cases, which in turn provide the evidence-based back for program ministries to put in their submissions. You know, so we provide that technical expertise that's required for those submissions. You know, but it ultimately really boils down to Treasury Board as to that moving forward. So I know a lot of people get that mixed up with our department, where they think that that we do the approvals. But one of the things that our government did back in 2019 is they made a little bit of shift so that in each of the ministries, the ministry seeks the dollars from Treasury Board, and then if they are awarded a capital project that we've helped them develop as from a costing perspective, then they award that to us, and then once that takes place, then we can get involved as far as the the planning and design, and then following it through to construction. So we work within each of the different ministries in order to help and support. So we're that supportive role.
So on that, with the first step is the planning of the school project, and what does the timeline look like for a new school built from the budget allocation to the doors opening of a school? Like how much time would that take?
So once a project is identified and approved, it progresses through the project delivery and implementation, and timelines for project delivery. Depending upon the project, it can vary widely. But if we're talking about schools as we have been, it takes for a high school, say 4 to 5 years, and for elementary school and middle school, that can range from grade or from 3 years to 4.5. But it depends upon the complexity of the build, and that's why the high schools take a little bit longer, because there's a lot more to it.
And a final question here, and then I'll cede my time to Minister Cyr, or Mr. Cyr. Can the minister explain how modular expansion of schools addresses expansion needs instead of the formal renovation or a modernization of a school facility?
So modulars are provided to address sometimes health and safety aspects and high enrollment pressures, and are constructed and installed on school sites in less time, of course, than any sort of permanent construction or renovation that's taking place. But the average, this is pretty amazing actually, the average modular classroom is constructed in approximately 20 to 30 business days. Yeah, so once they get the order, this is with our current supplier, they can get that done in as quickly as 20 days, and they can do 3 of those in a week. And right now there's currently 5,700 modular classrooms in the province. And since 2005, we've delivered more than 2,500. And in the past 10 years, we've done 400 modular relocations, which is actually a little bit more than what I had thought, because there's a heck of a lot involved in moving them. But education is currently working on new approvals for this upcoming 24-25 years, so we don't have that determination yet. But we do know that, as far as the capital project submission process goes, those school jurisdictions would have submitted, by last September, what their desire would be for this upcoming year. So I'm sure that there's a lot of lobbying going on in the Department of Education right now to get those modulars. But there's an extra 25 million that was put into this year, for a total of 50 million to put towards modulars in that modular program. With over 100 million for the next 3.
Ceding it to, you're giving him a promotion. I heard you made him a minister, but we
I
can't
made
do
him a
that here.
minister.
MLA Sear, over to you, sir.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you through you to the minister for this time today. I'd like to return back to page 137, 6.0, Alternative Capital Financing Partnerships Office, specifically about the P3 models that were under management through your office or bids. The opposition has brought in former Minister Panda, and clearly this is some older decisions that were made in the past, sir. And I'd ask for a little bit of latitude here to be able to talk about my time with former Minister Panda. I served with him in opposition. I also had the privilege of serving with former Minister Mason, Transportation Minister at the time. The reason this is important, sir, is that during that time, we had one of Alberta's larger P3 models approved through former Minister Mason's office. And I believe this is relevant because the opposition right now is challenging the P3 model that is being utilized by the minister today. Now, it's important that, and for Hansard, I'll give the article that I'm referencing. On September 16th of 2016, the article's name is Southwest Ring Road is approved. Project cost under budget due to downturn. The quote from the minister of the day, former Minister Mason, this project will actually put close to 15,000 people to work during 5 years of construction. And at the same time, tenders come in at a lot lower, because unlike in boom times, prices are quite a bit lower. So we're saving money and putting people to work. Now, during low oil times, and
This is where we run the risk of going outside of the budget years, the specific reference items. I did give the other side a lot of latitude, but member, I'll need you to reel it in, because this isn't question period or member statements. So let's make sure that it's relevant here, just given the amount of time we have left.
thank you, sir. And what happens here is that what we've got is during that time and Minister Panda's time, as well as our current infrastructure minister's time, they're utilizing a tool, sir, a tool that is used throughout the world, a tool that is valued. And at this point, we saw that the NDP, or the opposition, had used this tool in a capacity, one of the largest capacities you could possibly use it. And you know what? I will say that it is this agree to disagree approach that the opposition is taking, this holier than thou approach that says, you know what, we know better. We've been given examples where all the systems of managing these contracts fail. But you know what? The minister has brought in some good points, saying that 99%, minister, of these projects are successful, whether they're in the P3 model or through the government design model. Is that true, minister?
Well, that can vary, but yeah, it's a very high percentage. And I like where you're going.
Well, Minister, when it comes to discussions like this, being open and trying to find the lowest cost to the taxpayer with the best results possible should be all of our goals, including opposition's. It seems as if the opposition party has lost their momentum and are focused on the fact that private industry also flourishes through this. It's an opportunity for the P3 to really make sure that we're all on top of making infrastructure for all of us. So, Minister, I commend you on looking at all options, not outright rejecting options simply because of ideology, sir. So how exactly do you go through this process for choosing which option? Can you walk me through that again, Minister?
Actually, yeah, there's a lot involved. And I think, infrastructure currently uses 4 different methods to deliver projects. And so we have the design, bid, build, which is your most traditional. Design build, then there is construction management, and then there's the P3 partnership. And that design bid build, as I mentioned, this is the most traditional one that you're going to see out there, where we design and have construction. We follow a linear path, and it's typically used for projects that are very well defined. And you have a lot of early budget certainty there. And it's not something that it's for less complex type of facilities, not something that you would use, say, in a health facility. But it's very commonly understood delivery and has high bid competition. However, with this method, there's limited ability to fast track a schedule. The second delivery method that we use is design build, and that's where design and construction responsibilities are assigned to one entity. And this is typically done for school projects. School projects too, especially
that would be the end of that block. So now this is, tongue-in-cheek, 10 minutes. This is considered the rapid-fire round, if you would, for how these meetings go. And you cannot cede your time in these blocks, so just be cognizant of that, members. But again, you can ask for combined time or block time as well. Over to the official opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I have some questions related to some of the health facilities. I'm wondering, with the cancellation of the South Edmonton Hospital and some concern about what that's going to do with the increasing infrastructure deficit in terms of lack of beds. Are we able to hear what the plan is to make up that deficit? And what will be the cost to taxpayers and the value for taxpayers in delaying having those beds available? So that's first question. Along with that, we know that there has been some discussion that the build of the stollery will release some capacity eventually. So once the stollery is built, there can be some renovations. But the stollery beds, even though there's 200 children's beds, many of those are for 4 cribs in a room. And so the estimate I've heard is that even with best build, we may get 80 adult beds out of that, and so I'm hoping to have some further information about that. I'm also wondering about the where we're at with the completion of the Arthur Child Cancer Center. There's still ongoing construction that's not quite finished yet on that, and I would like to know what the costs are and where that is sitting at. And then within the consolidated, the estimates within the estimates document, On page 111, there are a number of items related to capital grants and facilities. And I'm wondering about if I can get more detail on those. For example, EMS vehicles, normally the last year, there was $5 million allocated. This coming year, there are $15 million allocated. And I'm not arguing, I just like to understand what that is. Is there a big deficit that needs to be picked up and repaired? Or what is that about? There is also on item 10.5 on page 111, the Rural Alberta Health Facilities Program has a $40 million amount, and I'm wondering what that is for. Item 10.4 has $4,135,000 allocated to the Alberta Surgical Initiative Capital Program, and I'm wondering what that will be for construction of. And with regards to that, is that a grant, and will the Albertans own that at the end, or is that something that will be owned and operated by the company that is being built with? There are also capital payments for acute care. That's item 2.4 on page 111. Maybe that's the cancer center still, I don't know. This is for over $1 million, and I note that's a major drop, as previous year was over 10 million, so maybe it's just finishing up a project, but I'd like to understand what that is about. There's also the capital, item 10.1 is capital grants for continuing care beds, over 241 million, and just some more detail around what that is all about. And then on page 115 of the estimates document, there's a line item that has for infrastructure support of $6,700,000. I believe, in referencing back and forth, I think that's for Beaver Lodge Health Center. And I would like to have some understanding of what that item is for.
There's still 16 seconds if you use it. If you don't use it, you lose it.
16 seconds.
Okay, good. Minister, over to you. And you.
Yeah, I guess a couple of quick ones here. Unfortunately, I don't have the information you're looking on as, for ambulances, as you know, that would be held within health. And then actually Beaver Lodge was not delivered through the Department of Infrastructure. That too was done through health. And then continuing care, that would be with health and community and social services perhaps. So I guess, you know, on those ones I'll have to defer. So you had asked about Calgary Cancer. So Alberta Health Services is working to install all the technical and clinical systems to make it operational. We finished with our work. You know, there's some post construction handover stuff that's still going on to take care of, you know, minor deficiencies. But as far as the Department of Infrastructure, our Department of Infrastructure is concerned, it's handed over. There was a few little bits that I didn't get to in a previous block, so I'm just going to try to go through them. I think they're relatively quick. So on the Swan Hills Treatment Center, there's $2.2 million increase from 23-24 budget to forecast. This is primarily due to carryover of unspent funds to complete projects that were due to scope reviews from some projects that are taking a little longer than anticipated. for government infrastructure, facilities infrastructure, it was brought up about the $71.5 million decrease from the 23-24 budget to forecast, and this is primarily due to $21 million in-year funding relocation to education for the development of a charter school in Calgary. $17.5 million in-year funding relocation to mental health and addictions to administer the grant funding for some recovery community facility projects. Alignment of project scheduling and cash flow requirements for government facility projects that were included, as well as, say, Red Deer Justice Center, Canmore Nordic Center, and Yellowhead Youth Center. So that makes up most of that. There was a question on accommodation projects, and from the it was 11.2 million increase, and that was from 23-24 budget to forecast. And this is primarily due to alignment of project scheduling and cash flow requirements for various accommodation projects at government-owned and leased buildings, such as the Edmonton Infrastructure Building, relocate transportation to infrastructure building, and Edmonton Infrastructure Building on the third floor modernization. And then the larger one was a $331 million decrease from the 23 budget to forecast. This is primarily due to reprofiling of funds into other fiscal years to align cash flows with the project schedules. So some of the ones that I'll highlight here, the 22.7 million decrease for major health facilities, and that included Calgary Cancer, Alberta Surgical Initiative Capital Program, and Bridgeland Riverside Continuing Care. 33 million decrease in government facilities infrastructure for government facility projects, Red Deer Justice Center, Canmore Nordic, Yellowhead Youth. 38.5 million for in-year funding relocations to education for the Charter Hub School and to mental health and addictions for the Recovery Community Facility, and 14.4 million decrease for previously announced school capital projects. Also, 21.5 million decrease for health capital maintenance and renewal projects, primarily due to a reduction in planned spending in 23-24 as a result of over expenditure in 22-23 as more work is completed by AHS than anticipated. Oh, okay, yeah. So the Alberta Surgical Initiative, you made some comments on that. For next time.
Hold that thought. Over to the government caucus now. Is there any members wishing to speak? Emily Yao. And Sherry, Block.
Minister's preference.
Minister, combined or block time, your preference? Oh, fourth, okay.
Thank you so much. Minister, again, thanks to you and your entire team for all the hard work you guys do. I've watched infrastructure as you guys have cleaned up your processes and tried to make things more efficient for the entire province, and that's greatly appreciated. So thank you guys all for your hard work on that. Red tape, as I said, we've watched the evolution of infrastructure over the last couple terms as we've attempted to clean things up in regards, make things more efficient in how we build things and demonstrate responsibility for taxpayers' funding money. If I could just point out key objective 1.3 of your infrastructure business plan, it does state that your ministry's commitment to reducing red tape and costs, accelerating construction timelines by simplifying, modernizing, and standardizing regulations, policy and guidelines, and building contracts, and by evaluating priority stakeholder recommendations such as prompt pay. My first question is, I guess, again, this is where a lot of red tape can both be a burden to a number of factors, while at the same time also ensuring accountability, responsibility, and safety for all parties involved. Certainly, I've seen a project up in the Fort McMurray region the McMurray Métis where they've built something without a plan, and they were beneficiaries of provincial and federal funding. And I think they were a demonstration of where we do need some of that red tape, and that we do have to ensure that we have a lot of these things to ensure that projects are built responsibly. So I guess my question to you is, can you explain the performance metrics or other data that you can point to that shows the success of the work to reduce red tape, but also understanding why we do need some of the red tape to ensure that projects are built in a responsible fashion?
Yeah, I think you guys all remember MLA Yao, when we were first elected back in 2019, how important this was for us. We were provided with an F rating incoming. We were being criticized. In fact, I think we still get criticized, but that sort of never goes away. But we have made tremendous strides to now have a grade A rating, and I think it's one of the great things that we did, even though it may be something that doesn't get enough headlines, but being able to get things done. So you're right. Like there's those essential pieces that naturally they serve a purpose, and they have to be there. Health and safety, as an example, those have to be retained. But there was items that were decades old that were completely redundant, that were out of date, but they were still bogging down the system, and so we had to get at it. And I'm happy to say that as a government, we met that goal of hitting and achieving 33%, which is fantastic. And the Department of Infrastructure, we got we're currently sitting at 37.2%, and we're always continually trying to improve. And so, we have Infrastructure Technical Resource Center, and what we did is we consolidated regulations there where applicable, and we just eliminated a lot of duplication that was an outdated regulation, and that right there made a major impact for us. We've also simplified requirements on procurement documents, resulting in more streamlined processes for planning, bidding, and tracking. This was something that industry was, calling for. They have been, pulling their hair out, wanting to streamline those processes, have some standardization. One of the things that we have utilized is our ILC, our Infrastructure Liaison Committee, and that's our department as well as industry representatives, and we sit down and they put their suggestions forward to us, including red tape and modernizing those contracts. Modernizing those contracts is actually within our mandate, and I'm happy to tell you that we are going to be this spring starting to release new formal contracts and some standardization within those contracts that is going to help us to further reduce time. And because we did it collaboratively, we did it with industry, and we worked together to get to that end. So I think that's where you're going to have that big success, is when you do that. When you don't do that consultation and you try to implement, and people don't feel that they have had that input, you're going to get resistance. But I think this is going to have a tremendous impact on it. And then I guess finally, there's that digitization. There was certain areas throughout all government departments that needed improvements there, and we did that as well.
Thank you so much for that, Minister. I'm wondering if I could switch gears a little bit and just discuss prompt pay. We passed some prompt pay legislation back in the 2020 fall session, and I've heard from stakeholders that do look at these contracts to build infrastructure for Alberta, and they're quite happy that this exists. They don't see that in other provinces. These businesses tend to carry a lot of debt burden for a substantial amount of time, and it does hurt a lot of the smaller players who don't have the fiscal wherewithal to be able to support some of the larger projects. So I'm wondering if you can explain just how does the current prompt pay legislation impact construction timelines and the overall procurement process? Based on some of the legislation that we might have already, can you explain some of the other improvements to this that you're looking at making as we endeavor to make things more government contracts for infrastructure to be more attractive for multiple companies to consider bidding on?
So, infrastructure is continually exploring ways. We talked about the ILC and its use. And this is a major topic of discussion within that, but we're constantly exploring ways to ensure that subcontractors receive payments from contractors fairly and promptly. And we're working with Service Alberta, who is the lead to address and understand current payment delays. Red tape, yes, is the lead, but at the same, we end up, as being infrastructure, and we're the ones that are out there awarding the contracts. A lot of that comes through us and through our department. And about the issues that still kind of remain are with the subcontractors and sub-consultants, and they've been bringing concerns to us, and so we've been trying our best to be able to give them that timely payment and completion of work from prime consultants and contractors. I would say too that our ministry, we try to live up to that same standard, and so we meet that 30-day payment obligation ourselves, and we do that 96% of the time for capital projects. And there's 4% there that we don't meet. As you can imagine, there are issues that can come about. Say there's deficiencies in the work. Maybe there's some sort of legal solution that's out there, and so we're not going to pay that out until we can resolve those issues. But 96% of the time is pretty darn good. So we try to adhere to and set the example, by living up to those invoice payment timelines and constant improvement. That's what it's about.
Thank you so much. Greatly appreciate that, Minister. Again, thanks to you and your entire team for all the hard work that you do.
And that's how you do it, running right to the wire. Loyal opposition.
Chair, thank you to all the members, participating.
Want back and forth or block or?
No, I'll complete my 5 minutes block.
Okay, perfect.
Sure. Minister, I would really appreciate, if we can receive the list of existing P3 projects. The P3 is going through tenders, or right now are the existing P3s, the cost and the type of P3s, whether they are design build or design build maintenance, so what level, what stages that they are, and even if the minister can't provide, I know it might not be possible to have this information handy, but I would really appreciate if you can provide me the answers in writing, anything you cannot answer right now, I would appreciate to providing the answers in writing. And what are their annual payments going out to existing P3s? And where do we see that in this budget? what are those amounts, like, if you have this information, that'd be really handy. And, once again, the minister have referred to honorarium, there is a provision in the settings. So, my question was around, like, how much honorarium we have paid in last 4 years, 3 or 4 years. So if you do not have this information handy, you can give me information later in writing. And let me see what my other question was. Yeah, the list of the, honorariums, unsuccessful bids, and the total amount, what was that? And the other question I had about around total number of adult beds expected to be added to our health capacity in hospitals in Alberta as a result of 2024 and investments over the last 4 years. When those beds will come online, what the cost per bed is, and
Just to be clear, this is under infrastructure? Okay, so the ones that the infrastructure is responsible for, not healthcare? Okay, just helping you out there a bit.
yes, and where those beds will be created due to the P3 or the infrastructure buildings, like infrastructure funding specifically. And I have, okay. So I'll refer back to actually capital-related properties, and one line item in the estimates is 5.2. This line item was budgeted for 14 million in last budget, but only spent $350,000, like that's a huge gap. If Minister can explain, like, where the discrepancy is. And in the capital-related parties, line item 2.2, health facility infrastructures, it appears that there is a large drop in spending. More than $500 million was budgeted. That was exact figure was 556.7 million, but only spent $334 million. So this figure is a bit of suspicious, close to the cost of South Edmonton Hospital. We see was this drop because a vital project was still gone? If so, when this decision was made, Minister, do you think the people of South Edmonton need a hospital? And what should we say to the people in Edmonton South? Health capital maintenance and renewal line item is 2.4, is again being cut in this year budget from 229 million last year to 172.3 million in this budget. So why more than $30.8 million cut? That amounts to minus 27%. So why is this, Minister? Why cut funding to support healthcare?
And Minister, back to you.
All right, thank you. Just to hit on a couple of things, yeah, I think that, Chair, you were right on with your comment there. There are some things that are in the purview of health that I won't be able to answer. I can say that where the ambulatory care building is concerned, that's not, there's no beds in there per se. There's no, that's going to be in the patient tower, and the patient tower is going to be delivered by construction management delivery. And let's see, I'll try to get through, well, you had asked about land acquisition services, $13.8 million decrease from the 23-24 budget to forecast, and it's primarily due to reprofiling to future years as land purchases for some client departments will be completed this year as originally anticipated, such as lands in Boss Lake and Balzac. So program spending, these can fluctuate from year to year, depending upon those cash flows. And we have to adjust those naturally, as you would well expect, be Treasury Board and the AG. I mean, they kind of make sure that that we do that. I would like to just comment. I'm going to go on to the Alberta Surgical Initiative that was mentioned earlier, but I do want to make sure that, you know, all of our projects, they're delivered by, you know, by the private sector. We don't manage the projects. We'll have somebody there to represent and be the liaison, but it's all delivered by the private sector. However, the ownership is always retained by us, by the people of this province, and by our government. So that's, I just want to make sure that's clear here. We retain ownership, and that includes P3s. We are the owners of that asset. The Alberta Surgical Initiative program, you know, reducing wait times by increasing surgical capacity. Naturally, this is a top priority for our government. The Alberta Surgical Initiative capital program will complete renovations and expansion projects throughout the province to help increase provincial surgical capacity and reduce wait times. Budget 24, the government approved $309 million over the next 3 years for the Alberta Surgical Capacity, or the Surgical Initiative capital program. And Alberta Infrastructure is managing projects at a variety of locations. In Calgary, Alberta Children's Hospital, Foothills Medical Center, and the South Health Campus. In Edmonton at Grey Nuns, Misericordia, Royal Alec, as well as Walter Mackenzie. And then across the province in Brooks, Camrose, Fort Saskatchewan, Innisfil, Lethbridge, Olds, Ponoka, Rocky Mountain House, St. Albert, and Stettler. And infrastructure projects like this one, you know, demonstrate that our government's committed to healthcare, committed to jobs, increasing capacity, and supporting Albertans. And in the 24-27 capital plan, $309 million was approved for the next 3 years, and both Alberta Health Services and Infrastructure are managing these. Typically, if it's over $5 million, not always, but generally, if it's over $5 million, you're going to have infrastructure managing that. If it's less than $5 million, AHS will manage it. But there are 15 Alberta Surgical Initiative projects, including 12 that are in planning, 1 in design, 2 in construction. Rocky Mountain House is anticipated, actually, I think it's ready to go this month, if memory serves. And Lethbridge is to be completed later this summer. Earlier was asked about school facilities and P3s. And we assessed 7 schools as being suitable to be included for the latest P3 school bundle. In November of 23, Treasury Board approved proceeding with a P3.
Yeah, hesitate to interrupt with 2 minutes and 41 seconds remaining. MLA Stefan.
And I'd like to ask the minister if he would be okay with splitting time.
Sure.
That is wonderful. Minister, I don't have much time. Of course, the Red Deer Regional Hospital is a transformative investment. It is the largest capital project, as I understand it, in infrastructure stewardship at this time. My understanding is we're having an information session with the public actually this week. And I just want to commend the ministry for doing that. Unfortunately, during the last election, there was a lot of misinformation, frankly, and false statements made by the NDP, saying that under our government that we weren't going to build the hospital. It was very...
Word has been called.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just under 23HIJ, as well as relevance to this, we have 2 minutes left. I thought perhaps we could just stay on the budget. if we, my point of order is relevance, but also language likely to create disorder in bringing up the election at this point, when we've had a very effective estimates meeting, is unhelpful.
Member, do you wish to respond?
You know what, we're talking about the Red Deer Regional Hospital and an information session that we're having on Thursday. And that's very valuable to make sure that there is true information and accurate information and transparency on this project for Albertans, and particular families and individuals in central Alberta. So very disappointing that I was interrupted as I was talking about a project that's very important to our constituency.
Members, I'm not going to call this a point of order, although I do wish we could have made it all the way through with one being called. But let's keep it on the tracks if we can, and use the remaining 39 seconds you have to get a question into.
And it's very unfortunate that we gave so much leverage and relaxation to the members opposite, and they decide to interrupt on something that's so important for Central Albertans. But Minister, I just want to ask, this is a very favorable precedent. Health infrastructure costs often go over budget. And I'm just wondering, having information systems, information sessions like this, do you see this as aiding transparency and accountability in the construction of healthcare projects, not only here, but throughout Alberta?
I hesitate to interrupt. We have reached the conclusion of this meeting, and thank you very much for all your participants, and we'll see you in the next one right after lunch.